I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. Sigmund Freud. In a 2019 Psychology Today article called Why Our Fathers Are Our Heroes, Scott Allison quoted Freud in support of the second of the two main reasons fathers are heroes to their children. His first reason is fathers are given credit for being great teachers and mentors. The second reason is they are great providers and protectors. While not always true, the majority of homes, particularly the happy ones, are led by those kinds of fathers. While the Bible doesn't tell us a lot about King David's father Jesse, there are some hints of his influence on David. One is in how he cared for his large family even into his old age, 1 Samuel 17 verses 12 through 19. Another is the lengths David went to protect him while running from Saul, 1 Samuel 22 verses 1 through 3. There's also a huge hint in how God described David as, quote, a man after his own heart, end quote, when declaring his appointment as ruler instead of Saul, 1 Samuel 13, verse 14. But the biggest hint of all is in David's view of God. For most of us, our first concepts of God, good or bad, are based on how we related to our fathers as children. Multiple modern studies have explored the correlation and are worthy of our study. But for now, let's listen to how David relates to God as today's Saturdays in the Psalms edition of Morning Minutes in the Bible on An American Missionary continues to draw from Psalm 18. Previously, we noted how David considered God his rock and refuge, which is why he called out in distress when fleeing from Saul, Psalm 18 verses 1 through 6. When David cried out to God for protection, through faith he saw how the earth shook and the mountains trembled at his anger, verse 7, and how God breathed smoke and fire, verse 8. He saw God ride the winds and dark clouds, verses 10 and 11, heard his thundering voice, verse 13, watched his arrows scatter the enemy, verse 14, saw him lay open the world and rebuke, verse 15, and finally experienced being delivered from the enemy and brought to safety, verses 16 through 18. And most important of all, notice the reason. Because David knew this about God. He delighted in me, verse 19. Most dads delight in their children and want what's best for them, including safety from anyone who would harm them. They would go to just about any lengths to rescue their beloved children. Hopefully that describes your dad. But even if it doesn't, it does describe your God. He is waiting to save you. Will you turn to him for divine rescue in the obedience of faith? Thank you for watching this Saturdays in the Psalms edition of Morning Minutes in the Bible on An American Missionary. Until next time, this is James McClenny hoping you have a great day.